This is totally for another project, but I wanted to show it as an example because similar to Tilda, Allison Glass tends to play in a pretty same saturation level for a lot of her fabric. So you kind of have to pick and choose. I often, when I use Allison's lines, I go across numerous of her Sunprint lines because they have different textures and feeling to them. And then I look for, different shades where possible, such as this is really a medium yellow, but it has some white on it. So from a distance, it could read as a lighter yellow. The same thing here with this is a pretty medium dark green with white on it, but from a distance, it can read a little lighter. The same thing here. This is really a fuchsia with white on it, but the white's going to help bring it down some. So this has the full spectrum, again, of the color wheel, right? So I'm taking that all into consideration, but I'm trying to look at the different textures, right? So I'm making sure that not only do I have a good amount of color represented, but I'm also looking at tone on tone, medium accents, color plus white, tone on tone, tone on tone, but with some accents, more tone on tone here. Here are some small accents in a different color. Here's a multicolor print, which you don't find too many of them in Allison's line, but when you do, grab them because you can use them as, that bridge fabric. More tone on tone. A little bit of some geometric here. A little bit of small accents in a different color. So, again, this is not going to have the variation in it. When I use this in the quilt that I'm making it with, I'm playing on the different colors and the different textures in the fabric. I'm not going to get as much dimension as I would if I had light, medium, and dark. This is mostly all in the medium, maybe some lighter mediums, and maybe some medium darks. Definitely the black would fall into the dark category. But I'm not going to have as variety of dimension. It's all good. My quilt just isn't going to have as much dimension. Doesn't mean it's going to look bad. It just means that I'm okay with the fact that I'm basically representing the full color wheel and I'm not getting my dimension out of the value. But I'm still making sure that this quilt has interest in that I have different types of prints, I have different colors, and I have different scales of print. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right, I have two more for you. So this is a total stash pull. All right, so I think I stuck mostly with my Kate Spain fabrics. A couple of them I'm not too sure. I didn't particularly bother myself with it too much. So really quick pull. But I wanted to represent, the orange to the blue and then the pink to the aqua blue green. I'm really not picking anything in this space here. I'm mostly focusing on bluish green with the pink and then orange with the blue. So just two sets of complementary color plans. So I think it's cute. It's very quick, so don't be too judgy. But what I really wanted to focus in on is that I had things that read as light, that I had things that read as dark, I had things that had a print, right? A medium to large size print on it, multicolor, some bridge fabrics, some things that are a little bit smaller, something that reads as a darker or tone on tone, things with some geometric, a few things that are a little lighter, that if I went with a white background, which I would if I were doing this, that are pretty close but have a print of color in it because there'll be places for that, some more tone on tone, some geometric, some darker tone on tones, again with a print, but of interest. So this is a total stash pull. I could probably keep augmenting, which is something you can think about as well. If you're looking to do maybe two versions. One that's pretty planned and a planful prepackaged fat quarter pack, and then another from your stash. Maybe you practice with your stash and then you make your second block with your newly purchased fabric. Just something to think about. You can always add, right, to this as I go along and add different things to it and such and make it, you know, more of a true sampler quilt. But I think this gives you a good show of, if you did want to pull from stash, you still want to take into consideration the value, different values, different scale of prints, right? And, you know, different textures. In other words, geometric, dots, florals. Add some interest to your quilt, right? Because it all harks back to that sampler quilts were traditionally made with all kinds of fabric. And so you want to make sure that you're representing that in your quilt. All right. This here would have their complementary color plans. It's very soothing. I do have a mix of some warm and some cool. So it has interest, but it's not a loud in-your-face quilt. To me, this is very calming, and I could definitely see putting this on, you know, like maybe a off-white with little tiny polka dot background to give it some even more interest and softer, and it would be perfect for, you know, a young teenage girl or something, or even on my quilt, on my bed. All right, let me just show you one more. All right, so here is a more vintage Christmas line. I think it's Kate's. I didn't even look. But it has, you know, different textures in it. It was a pre-packaged fat quarter pack that had a bunch of different fabrics. You can see here I have some difference in shading, right? I have things that are going to read lighter, right? I have some traditional colored background fabric with just a little bit of hint of coloring on it. I have my darker. I have some that are reading as lighter. Some that are tone on tone, some that have geometrics, some that have prints on them where I could probably do a little fussy cutting, more tone on tone, but again, geometric, definitely tone on tone, reading darker, small accents here, but it's a darker print. So I've checked the boxes of that. I have light, mediums, and darks. I have different scale of prints, right? I have large scale prints, tone on tone, medium scale, multicolor, and then texture. I have things that are going to read geometric, things that are going to have more of a picturesque piece to it, things that are delicate. And so I only have 30 fat quarters. So I went into my stash and I pulled out what I think I need more of, which is more like tone on tones. I grabbed a few that are reading more light, things that are reading more dark, but I would augment this fat quarter pack with this. You know, I get close probably to the 24 of the 36 having enough value difference than, say, if I were to pick, you know, a really light background like this. But I still want some more color. I could have probably pulled a little bit of the light blue. I didn't even think about it, but that would definitely look good as well. So again, more of Christmas. So this would be a perfect Christmas quilt. It would be a perfect Halloween quilt. It would be a perfect patriotic quilt. So this again is just from Stash to give you a sample of that. You still want to take into account, I can't say it enough, value, scale of print, and different textures so that they read differently. All right, so that wraps up my lesson in your fabric selection. Maybe we'll try and do another go live before the mystery from a quilt shop and look at some more recent lines and see what of those might work for the line. Love to hear if you'd be interested in something like that. Make sure you post your comments. All right, so that wraps up the fabric selection. Make sure you download the overview. It tells you that you need the fat quarters. It also features the two different lines that I showed you at the very beginning, my Paisley Rose and Bermuda Batiks. Both are sold out with Moda. So if you see them in the quilt shop or if you've pre-ordered them from the Yankee Quilter, It's a good idea because the lines are definitely sold out from Moda, so they're very popular. I think they're going to be fantastic. I can't wait to start kicking this off and showing you. So make sure you download the overview. It gives you all the information, and feel free to post your questions, and I'll answer them as soon as possible. All right, go pull some fabric or go shopping.